Late one night, two sisters, Annie and Jessica Andrews, conducted a seance. They got a Ouija board and they went down into their basement. But before we get into this story, if you're a fan of true crime that is dark, strange, and mysterious, I invite you to cram brownies into the like button's mouth and then give it a big open mouthed kiss. Also, hit the subscribe button and click the little bell so you never miss an episode. Now, Annie and Jessica's mother had recently died of cancer. They lived with their dad, and as you can imagine, this family of three was having a really hard time getting past their mother's death. When they went down to the basement with the Ouija board, they hoped to contact their mother. So they went through the motions of asking the Ouija board questions. But they didn't get any answers. Finally, the two girls gave up and went to bed. Later that night, they began hearing taps from inside the walls. It sounded like these taps had a rhythm, and the girls started trying to communicate with whatever was making these tapping sounds. They said it was like they could ask it questions, and it would answer them with knocks on the wall. This went on for several nights. Annie and Jessica said the taps became more frequent and would often wake them up in the night. Then, more things began happening in their home at night. For example, things would disappear, the family would go to bed and then wake up to find objects scattered on the floor. And this was not limited to nighttime. Sometimes the girls would come home from school to find that furniture had been moved around in the house, and their dad was gone to work, so there's nobody there to do that. The things were getting so crazy that the girls thought the ghost in their house was actually not their mother, but instead was some sort of evil spirit. So this is when they decided to tell their dad. Of course, their dad thought this was just ridiculous, and he thought the girls were causing all of this to happen on their own. He thought this was maybe a way for the girls to deal with their mother's death, so he didn't do anything. The noises inside the walls continued and actually became really annoying to the two girls who were trying to sleep at night. They thought they had conjured a bad ghost who was intent on annoying them and trashing their home. One thing that was consistent was that the knocking always came from inside the walls. But one day, the girls heard the knocking coming from the basement. They were so tired of this ghost that they were actually infuriated. It was in the middle of the day. They grabbed knives from the kitchen and they ran down to the basement, hoping to confront this evil spirit. But in the basement, they found a message written on the wall in blood. And it said, "I'm in your room, come find me." This terrified them, and there was no ghost to attack, so the girls ran out of the house and hid at a neighbor's house until their dad came home from work. Unfortunately, their dad, once again, thought these two girls were the culprits and that they had written the message on the wall. And of course, he's just furious at them. He insisted the girls go to counseling to get help with grieving over their mother. And then things were quiet for a little while. The knocking stopped, nothing got moved around the house, and it seemed like whatever had been going on had stopped. Then one day, the knocking began again from inside the wall. And the girls once again grabbed knives from the kitchen and ran down into the basement. But once again, there was no ghost. Instead, there was just a message written on the wall in blood that said, "I'm back. Find me if you can." And so the girls ran to the neighbor's house again and waited for their dad to come home from work. While they waited, the neighbor went to the house to see what was going on. The girls stayed at the neighbor's house this whole time. So the neighbor saw the condition of the house before the dad got home from work. And again, when their dad got home, he thought the girls had written the message on the wall. So their dad went over to the house right away. But he went with the neighbor. The neighbor followed him. And what they found was that the house was in more disarray than earlier when the neighbor had checked. So clearly someone other than the girls had been in the house and caused a mess. The dad then walked up the stairs to the girls' bedroom because that's where the message said the ghost would be. And when he first walked into the girls' bedroom, the first thing he saw was yet another message written on the wall in blood, and it said, "Marry me." Then the dad looked out of the corner of his eye and he saw something. When he turned to look, he saw a teenage boy standing in the corner of the room, wearing a dress owned by the girl's mother, and he was holding a hatchet. The dad lunged at the boy and they fought. At one point, the dad fell to the floor and the boy somehow disappeared. Where'd he go? The dad went downstairs and he called the police. The police discovered that the messages on the walls were actually written in ketchup. A further inspection of the house found a hidden door in the girl's bedroom that led to a cupboard. So the police went and opened this cupboard, and that's where they found this teenage boy hiding. He was curled up inside the wall. They arrested him, and the family realized he was a boy that one of the girls had gone on a date with before all this started. She had rejected him, and this was apparently his sick revenge. The boy's name was Danny Laplante, and he was age 15. Just 2 years later, he would go on to attack a different family, murdering a mother and her 2 children. He's now serving 3 life sentences without the possibility of parole. So that's going to do it for today, guys. How scary was this for you? Also, if you have ideas for stories that I should cover, please leave a comment. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.